Continuing in stance work, I know that we have all learned, based on our stances, that there is a center that is repressed. So we have a dominant center, and for the aggressive stance, the dominant center is doing, and that's supported by the supportive center, which for the aggressive stance is thinking. And then we have a repressed center, and for the aggressive stance, I can definitely vouch personally that that is the feeling center. And for me, on this journey, and I think for just 3s, 7s, and 8s in general, it's such a hard concept for us to even embrace, because it seems to get in the way of what we do dominantly, all that doing, and the thinking supports that. There are examples that I can give of one that I love, a story that I love to tell about needing t-shirts for 60 kids, and my co-worker and really good friend was supplying them, and I couldn't get a hold of him, and I needed the shirts, and I ended up calling his boss, because all I wanted to do was just go pick up the shirts. We had the event that night, I just needed to pick up the shirts. Find out later, when I talked to him, that he had a family member in the emergency room in the hospital and had all of this tragedy going on in his life. And the reaction from other stances usually is, being appalled that I didn't stop to think about, feelings in that sense, and it was getting in the way of productive doing. Now, what I think gets lost with other numbers who aren't in the aggressive stance is I had a great connection with him, and we did talk about it. If I had it all to do over again, I'd do exactly what I did, because I needed to get the shirts for the 60 kids. And what I've learned in that, if I operate in that mode all the time, is that right there is where the rub comes for our stance. That's where we walk over people that we didn't mean to necessarily, and that's a challenge.
How difficult is it knowing that what you have to bring up is feelings to access that side of your personality?
I'm going to speak from an 8's perspective. It's very difficult as an 8, because it inherently is going to involve trusting people enough to be vulnerable enough to actually have some feelings and let someone else see that more tender side. And I think it's hard for all numbers in the aggressive stance. 3s have access to feeling. They can gauge the feelings in the room as a whole, but they never know what they feel internally. And 7s, Gary talked about it earlier, as a 7. 7s like to deal with the happy, positive, fuzzy feelings, but the negative feelings and the sad feelings are really tough for them.
Well, for those of us who are in the withdrawing stance, what is repressed for us is doing. Now, that's hard to believe, because we all feel like we're doing something all the time. But particularly when you're looking at a 9, the difficulty with us is that we're not doing what needs to be done. And it's difficult to bring that up, because of the understanding that we have that we're always doing something. It's for those who are the 4s, their dominant stance is feeling, and that's being supported by their thinking. So whatever it is they're feeling, they're taking to a new level, whether it's a high or a low. For those who are 5s, it's they're thinking all of the time, and that's supported with what they're feeling about what they're thinking about, but not getting anything done with all of that process. Those of us who are 9s, what's dominant for us is doing, and like I say, we're doing something all the time, but we're not always doing the right thing. And as Suzanne teaches, if you laid down in front of us a bunch of cards with all the things we had to do, we wouldn't give more value to one than the other. And so what is key for me, I know from the perspective of a 9, trying to deal with my repressed center, is to prioritize the things in my life that need to get done so that I can accomplish much more and be more effective and healthy in the doing that I'm supposed to be doing. Things don't get lost or left behind because I procrastinated in some form or fashion.
And for those of us in the dependent stance, 1s, 2s, and 6s, what's repressed is thinking. And I have the same challenge as a 6 as you do as a 9, that what's also dominant is thinking. So I think I was really resistant to this idea that I don't think, but I don't.
To be in those core numbers where
it is. We're the same thing. Because I think I'm thinking all the time, and I am, but I'm awfulizing. I'm worst case scenarioing. And I was thinking about what you were saying as people look at the aggressive stance, and we sometimes think you guys kind of bulldoze over people, and that you don't have feelings about things. I remember we had a layoff recently, and watching my boss, who was a 3. Thinking, and I confronted him about it. I said, "You just see, this woman has been here all these years, and if she was leaving on her own accord, we'd be celebrating. But because we're laying her off, it's just kind of like, here's your pink slip." And but we were able to talk about it, and he was able to say, "Okay, let's talk this through." And what he was doing was helping me think productively. And he was like, so if we give her a plaque, if we throw her a party, if we is that really going to make her feel better about this? And, as I thought about it, no. I mean, it's unfortunate, it's sad, but that was healthy thinking. That was productive thinking. And I know for Suzanne as a 2, 2's, their challenge with thinking is they're thinking about relationships. Everything's relational, everything's personal. They're not necessarily thinking about what's theirs to do. And then for 1s, it's the voices. They think that conversation with the voices is productive thinking. So
I know, obviously, it's our work, it's our journey to bring those up, and I can definitely attest that in the moments and in the times where I've really been vulnerable with someone, or even in a situation where I maybe just kind of step back and let what I usually stuff down kind of come to the surface as an aggressive number. All that energy is still there, but it comes with a new level of authenticity when you bring up feelings that people can really relate to. And so I see that in a palpable way from the aggressive stance. Are there times when you guys have worked to bring that up and you've really seen the fruits of that?
For me, with the doing repressed, when a 9, Suzanne talks about inertia, a body at rest stays at rest and a body in motion stays in motion. When a 9 gets into motion and is doing what needs to be done, she have a real sense of accomplishment and a real sense of sort of the wholeness of our character being the very best that it can be, or being the healthiest that it can possibly be in the process of doing that. Because what we're not trying to do with any of these repressed centers is to repress any of the others. For me, I don't want to repress the other parts of my life, but bring this one up so that I can be as whole and as healthy and complete as I possibly can be in my own number.
And I've definitely, as I've worked to bring up more productive thinking, I'm so much more at peace just with things as they are, kind of that. And I think 6s in particular are really good at asking questions, and when I'm in a healthy space and I'm more productive thinking, I'm asking really good, honest questions that challenge people, but it's not from a basis of fear. I'm not asking all these questions because I'm afraid. I'm asking questions because part of the good side of scanning the horizon for danger all the time is that you're a good troubleshooter, and you can use that in healthy and positive ways.
I'm very blessed to have a 6 who is my secretary. So she asks me all the questions and keeps me doing and keeps me on task because she wants it to all work out and work out well. So she writes down absolutely everything that I need to do and keeps me positive in my doing
Right.
on the
Right.
track.
So I think it's interesting how we can help each other, bring those things up. And when you spoke about the times where you really do connect with that feeling and you show it, I am just, when I see a 9 in that right action doing what's theirs to do, or I see an aggressive number showing an emotion, it is powerful. I mean, it is like you're finally seeing a whole human being there, and it's as it should be. I think people seem. I know with the aggressive numbers, it just seems more genuine to me. It seems more, you're not just this superhero. You really do have this other part of you that feels deeply.
And with withdrawing numbers, I know those are the times, even as an aggressive number, that I'm like, wow, I will absolutely follow you. That's because...
Where did that come from?
A withdrawing number stood up to do something.
Because you guys really, you don't, in the withdrawing stance, you don't really step up in the forefront unless it's really important. And so that's a gift for those of us that in other stances that can recognize that. And because you really are tremendous leaders in those times.
I think that's part of the fruit of Enneagram work, and part of the fruit and of the reality of dealing with these repressed centers, because when we do begin to bring them up, there's real transformation that takes place in the life of the individual. And that's really part of the whole purpose of the Enneagram anyway, is that we can become as whole and complete and as healthy as we can be within our own number. And so watching the aggressive numbers really bring up feeling and enrich their lives by bringing that aspect into all of that energy that they have and that they bring forth. And those persons who are so connected to other people with feeling, being able to raise thinking to a new level within their lives, and find that there's a richness in their relationships because the thinking is involved. And for those of us who are repressed in doing, who are moving and not just sitting back and really moving forward and doing something creative and healthy, and making the world a better place, adding their wisdom, their knowledge, their feelings, or whatever else, is what's so transformative about the Enneagram as a whole.